YouTube and this one.
Ati? Una?
On YouTube.
Kumeenda aje TikTok?
Never knew. I decided to go on YouTube.
Kumeenda aje TikTok? Si uniambie kama mumeenda ama mumefanya aje?
It's still there.
It's still there. End live. Si ungeniambia tu hivi. Wewe vitu zingine wacha kusema maukui.
I'm on YouTube live.
Na venye mimi naongea hivi. Na venye mimi naongea makelele. Okay. Kungoja. Wewe. Kijana? Kijana wangu. My son. My son. Meine Sohn. Meine Sohn. nikupe? Nini? Kama nini? Sijui niko na kuvaa kweli. Niko na kuvaa. Nani anapumua? Nani anapumua? Ni yake. Ndio kawaida. Si kuna siku alikuwa anapakua huko. Sasa ni kuletea ama nini? Acha nayo huko. Mama Taraji. Harakisha.
You can switch it off. Abus, try switching off. We see how it will say. Oh yeah, man.
Vijana, mama is there. I'm gonna take you with me, come baby come. I'm gonna take you with me, come baby come. I'm gonna take you with me, come baby come, come baby come.
Free trade by political entities. And so that's what he's getting at, and that's going to be sort of the by political boundaries. That the economic principles that apply to voluntary exchange and the price determination, profit and loss, and the price formation for factors of production, issues related to capital and interest, all of those principles are not bound by political entities. And so that's what he's getting at, and that's going to be sort of the I tend to embrace that position as well, that the economic principles that inform interventions such as protectionism are not bound by political boundaries. Now, then we can that informs how we understand even what we mean by free trade. There are two broad conceptions of free trade. A lot of people, the conventional view of free trade is what we could call sort of the Ricardian free trade. Free trade between people in different political entities. The free exchange of consumer goods across political boundaries, while capital and labor do not move between countries. That was sort of the Ricardian. When he talked about free trade, the big free trade debates in England in the 1800s, that was basically the debate. Free trade meant free trade of goods when capital and labor were not mobile. Another view of free trade is simply the unhampered market. Free trade and producer goods, regardless of where they are. Free exchange and movement of all goods, including factors of production, throughout the economic order, however broad that economic order is, in whatever societies or whatever people groups this economic order incorporates. Right? And so I think that's the best way to think of free trade. Free trade is simply voluntary exchange. And then a society is simply the network of voluntary exchange. And so when we compare the free market versus protectionism, we need to sort of have a good general understanding of these two policies, the two types of societies we get when we have free trade and when we have protectionism. And the first thing we want to remind ourselves is things you've already learned. A lot of this is going to be reviewed because we're building on principles that you should have learned yesterday and the day before. The first is that trade is mutually beneficial. Trade is mutually beneficial. People act to increase their future state of satisfaction. Right? When you decided this morning I'm going to brush my teeth, you did. I am applying a toothbrush, and toothpaste, and water in my physical labor to achieve the end of whiter teeth and fresh breath. And you think that was an end worth pursuing. That's what you wanted to do, and so you. Exchange is an action.
Babe,
so when people trade
goods, come just a moment.
Goods, or they trade goods for money, or money for goods, they're doing it because
I want to know how to pass this to the other side.
And a free market allows everyone to achieve more of their ends given their environment of scarcity through voluntary exchange. So if here in town we have Buford, who is in need of driving someplace, so Buford is in need of gasoline. And he doesn't have gasoline, but he has $39.50. And then Mr. Circle K has gasoline, but he wants more money. Buford might value the 10 gallons of gasoline more than the $39.50 he has, whereas Circle K values $39.50 more than the 10 gallons of gas that Mr. Circle K has. And so they can engage in an exchange. And if they engage in that exchange, both Buford and Mr. Circle K receive something. And not just Circle K, but both parties benefit from this voluntary exchange. And that's why one of the conclusions of Murray Rothbard in Power and Market is that a free market tends to maximize satisfaction in the society. The mathematical calculus says, but maximize simply in the sense that in a free market,
What about the anarcho-capitalist libertarians call
the
it?
largest quantity of
I'm saying.
Ndio imaja mtoto
That's what the
mwanzo.
free market gets you. And as people pursue their ends in a free market, no one has their preferences frustrated. Meaning, no one is forced to make an exchange if they don't want to make an exchange. And no one is kept from making a voluntary exchange if they want to. And so, at the mutually beneficial, the mutually agreed to market price, everybody who wants to buy at that price can. And everybody who wants to sell at that price can. And at the market price, no one who doesn't want to pay that price has to pay the price. And no one who is not willing to sell at that price is forced to sell at that price. So in that sense, people's preferences are satisfied, and the free market tends to maximize the number of satisfied preferences. Everyone is free to act to achieve the highest ends of their value scale. Now, why is this relevant to anything? Well, it turns out that the same principles that apply to trade between people of the same country, or even the same town, or perhaps even the same neighborhood, the same principles apply to trading parties who happen to live in different. And so here we have a situation with Mr. Smith and Mr. Kishimoto. One person living in, say, Western Pennsylvania, the person living in Kawachi-Nagano, Japan. And Mr. Kishimoto has a Toyota RAV4, and I've noticed, by the way, that we've taken to simply calling cars by numbers now, increasingly. There's a CR4, a RAV4, there's a, I don't know, PDQ or something. It's numbers and letters. I don't think that, I tend to see that as it's efficient, with me. But in any event, Kishimoto has a Toyota RAV4, but he doesn't have $27,000. But he prefers $27,000 to the Toyota RAV4 that he has. Smith, on the other hand, in Western Pennsylvania, does not have the RAV4, but he does have $27,000. But he prefers, according to his preference ranking that we see here, the Toyota RAV4. Well, is there a way for both parties to achieve what they value more? And of course, the answer is yes. They can engage in mutually beneficial exchange, just like we've been talking about. And so that they do that, the little arrow there signifies the movement from where they were to what how things are going to be after the exchange. And it turns out that after the exchange, both Smith and Kishimoto end up with the good that they prefer the most. Smith gets the Toyota RAV4, Kishimoto gets the $27,000. Both parties also engage in an exchange that's mutually beneficial. And so the principles of exchange apply to traders that are quote-unquote international just as much as they apply to traders that are local. So that's the way the free market benefits people privately. But there's also then the great social benefits we've also talked about already. It turns out that the free market is necessary for economic progress. The free market is necessary for the development of the market division of labor. In order for the test, we talked about that, it was Monday, I guess. I know somebody. And they talked about the market division of labor, the social order. And we found, right, that one of the great lessons of the market division of labor is that people can specialize according to efficiency. And when they do that, that raises the productivity of everyone in society, and hence society in general, and people will be able to produce more goods and then also consume more goods. So it elevates the standard of living. An institutional requirement for people to be able to participate in the market division of labor is that they must be able to exchange their output. In order for it to be feasible, for people to specialize in producing one thing and then using that one thing to get other things that they need, they must be able to engage in exchange. And so a free market is necessary for the market division of labor. It's also necessary for capital accumulation. People have to have an incentive to save and invest and obtain capital goods within the market division of labor. And if you don't have a free market, if you have a hampered market where investment decisions are regulated, or there is a state that is taking loads and loads of your income away from you, keeping you from being able to save it and direct it towards capital formation. If you don't have a free market, we will have less capital accumulation. And so a free market is necessary for capital formation and maintenance and accumulation. A free market also enhances technological development. People need to be free to discover, to try out new ways of doing things, and to try out new technologies embodied in particular capital goods. And so a free market leads to or encourages technological development as well as capital accumulation, as well allows for the development of the market. And finally, a free market is necessary for entrepreneurial activity. Entrepreneurial activity, as you see, is crucial for economization of factory production. Entrepreneurs earn profit when they economize and direct the scarce factors that they can obtain towards their most highly valued use. And it's the free market that allows entrepreneurs to fully utilize resources accordingly. And so if we have a society that is an unhampered market, because it is a society that dwells within and is supported by an institutional framework of private property, then we get the blessings of the market division of labor, capital accumulation, technological development, and entrepreneurial activity, all of which culminates in an increased standard of living. Producers are able to be as productive as possible. Producers are as productive as possible. Resources are economized to the greatest possible extent. Obtain and use more and better goods to satisfy their ends and also provide more for their families. That is the great social blessing of a free market. And incidentally, of course, as we participate in the market division of labor, as we've already seen, it is be productive as possible. Producers are as productive as possible. Resources are economized to the greatest possible extent. People can obtain and use more and better goods to satisfy their ends and also provide more for their families. That is the great social blessing of a free market. And incidentally, of course, it is that is socially productive, meaning enhances development. It increases this understanding that we know in a society of the organization of labor, in a free market, we benefit as we benefit other people. We gain income only to the extent that we can serve other people better than anybody else. Even the most greedy capitalist pig can only earn a profit in a free market if he serves other people more successfully than anybody else, as defined by the people themselves. And so that's when we come to free market. Now, that the market is, in fact, dynamic. It's not static. The market is an institution by which entrepreneurs are trying to best serve other people, and these other people have preferences that change. And these other people live in an environment where the quantity of resources available change.
Can you come just a
We
moment?
live and technology changes. So the market is a dynamic place. And that means it doesn't stay the same from one period to the next. There are changes. There are changes in relative demands. There's changes in technology. There's changes in the quantity of population. There's changes in the stock of natural resources. And every change in the market has an effect. And every change in the market affects various individuals and groups in different ways. And in the short term, some of these people will gain, and some of these people will lose. Right? If an entrepreneur invests in something, if I was in the theater business, the movie theater business in 1944 or 45, and I thought things are just going to keep humming along just like they had from 1935 to 1945. And I'm going to invest in movie theaters and movie production just like I did before.
It's John.
if I wasn't planning ahead for contingencies, I would have been bankrupt. Because from 1946 to about movie going cut in half. There's a tremendous drop in the number of movie tickets. And so if you just think, oh, everything's hunky-dory, everything's the same, I'm just going to invest and do the same old thing, changes in the market will be such that some entrepreneurs that don't foresee these changes, don't anticipate them well, will lose. They'll earn losses. On the other hand, those entrepreneurs that do anticipate those changes will invest accordingly, and they will continue to gain profits, sometimes even more profits than they earned before. Or you could have a brand new entrepreneur that really wasn't in the game a handful of years ago, and suddenly they see something, and they have an idea of what demand's going to be like in a little bit, and so they invest accordingly, and they make big profits. The point is that every change in the market can create an opportunity for profit and for loss. And those entrepreneurs who correctly forecast and act accordingly will reap the profits, and those who do not will be losers. Not, personally, but I mean, they'll earn a loss. And so that's the state of the market. That's a free market. Protectionism is a form of intervention. It's a form of government intervention. And so it will be helpful for us to examine the sort of intervention in general. Intervention, by definition, is when the state interferes with market phenomena. So when the state interferes with market phenomena. An example would be price control. When the state doesn't allow the price to be determined through mutually beneficial or voluntary exchange, they issue a mandate saying the price can't go above this, that'd be a price ceiling, and the price can't go below that, that's a price floor. That's one example of an intervention. Engaging in economically redistributive tax policy, taxing from the more productive to give to whoever we want to privilege. That's a form of intervention. Government regulations of one type or another, that's a type of intervention. And so intervention is whenever the state intervenes or interferes with market phenomena. And the state then directs the market away from its natural path, determined by preferences of people in society. So whatever the price is going to be, when the state puts a price control on that product, you put it, say, whatever the wage for relatively unskilled labor would be in the market, the government puts a minimum wage there that is going to direct, if it's effective, it's going to direct that wage away from what it would be in a free market. And it's also important to note that this is not voluntary. This is not sort of a, come on, can you please do what we'd like you to do? Come on, can you raise that wage for unskilled labor? Can you just do it? No. It's a mandate, it's a law, which means this intervention is always backed up by violence. Taxes are not contributions. Taxes are required payments. And if you don't believe me, just don't pay your taxes and see what happens. Just a little experiment. I'm not advocating this, by the way. I'm just saying, if you don't believe me, if you would try it, you would see what happens. Now, we need to know that whoever is advocating for such an intervention, whoever is advocating for a minimum wage or for a rent control price or a price ceiling, or is advocating for an income redistribution program being paid for by taxes on certain people, or giving grants to certain artists or certain professors in humanities programs, or whoever is advocating for passing certain regulations on certain industries or certain companies, people who advocate for this are advocating for privilege to be given to somebody at the expense of somebody else. We're going to find that intervention, one of the consequences of intervention is that it sort of divides citizens into different groups. Those who receive benefits from the intervention and those who are harmed by the intervention. That's backed up by state coercion. Now, intervention in general results in relative impoverishment, meaning that people will be more poor or less wealthy as a result of the intervention compared to if we don't have the intervention. Why? Well, there'll be fewer beneficial exchanges, fewer mutually beneficial exchanges. If the state intervenes and says you cannot engage in a labor contract unless you're willing to pay this amount of money, those people who are not productive enough to warrant the artificially high wage, but yet would be willing to work for a lower wage, those people are not employable. And those are people who would be willing to work and who would be have employers willing to hire them, but they can't. But that's a mutually beneficial exchange that is off the table, that is made illegal. And so when we have state intervention, we have fewer mutually beneficial exchanges. Because there's less exchange, the extent of the market shrinks, so we know that constricts and contracts and distorts the division of labor. It tends to promote malinvestment, directing resources in a way that's different than what we would have as a result of people acting only according to their subjective preferences. And so we have capital malinvestment, we have reductions in capital accumulation. Intervention tends to stifle entrepreneurial activity. It keeps entrepreneurs.
I was saying, this thing here.
From investing in the best way
This thing here.
that they see to invest.
Like it's blocking me. I have to put it on the side.
And therefore, it inhibits economization. It inhibits economization. So it results in resources being squandered. It results in productivity declining. It results in fewer goods being produced and a lower standard of living in general.
As you can see there, we're talking about free trade.
It also promotes social conflict.
Without any intervention from the government. So yeah, I'm anti-Trump tariff.
And seeing us as part of a
pro-Rothbardian free market economics, even on trade.
Because it tends to benefit one citizen at the harm or the expense of others.
Yeah.
And that's what intervention does. If you want to learn more of that in detail, I encourage you to take a look at Ray Rothbard's Market. It goes through a full analysis of this. Mises also wrote a very good monograph called Interventionism.
Like this one is this face. I have to put it on the side.
Protectionism. Protectionism is a particular type of intervention.
Like
protectionism is a policy that seeks to promote the national welfare. By extending monopolistic privileges to domestic producers of some goods, particular goods. And they do that, they try to extend these privileges by encouraging exports and inhibiting imports. So protectionism as a policy tends to promote the exporting of goods produced by domestic producers and install goods in the country produced by people in other countries. And in general,
John, umepata? John.
Dream ni kusokio rent. Ndio, dream ni kubustio biz ujitegemee. Na kama dream ni kubadilisha hiyo 20 shillings into 2 million. Of course umekuja the right place.
Umepata?
2 million in cash.
Kuna kifuniko size ya hii ni kadogo ya kana kama hii imeanguka hapo kwa jikoni, sijui inaingia wapi. Uangalia chini ya gasi na hapo karibu na hizo mambo.
Authorized and regulated by BCB 428. Mimi ni bwanako. Sio unaniambia hivi. Huwezi hata ardhi yangu. Huwezi. Usiniambie kwamba bado
Siko sure inaanzia. Sijui imeingia wapi. Hapo tu wajibu.
Leave me alone. Nakubali kwamba nimekosea, lakini pia Mungu nielewe. Unajua, tunaona kama mara 3 ama 4 kwa mwaka. Is that a reason for cheating? I'm so sorry. Mungu nisamehe. Mbali na mimi.
Yeah, yeah, like, you know, the way this thing is.
I thought we agreed that tunataka a fresh start. When nataka a fresh start, lazima kuna loyalty. Sikuwekea na masiri. Kwamba hii information iko important kwako. Vile vile, nataka kupata.
Ama nimekambiliana. Niko kwa huko.
Afadhali unitupeke na ukweli. Kushinda kunitupeke na uongo. In fact, nimefikiria story tonight. And I think I have made a decision.
I wish to hear you. I'm going to apply.
Usifanye hivyo.
Ishikilie vizuri. Siko nimeweka.
Ni wewe ndio umefanya hivyo. Ni wewe ndio umefanya hivyo Duncan, jiblame. Mimi siwezi kuishi kwa sababu ya sababu. So nataka tuachane kwa amani.
You light itaweka pale.
Na wanawake wako. Nakuomba tafadhali. Tafadhali usimame.
Simama mkono.
Sababu ya hasira. Lakini mimi nikijishia.
Umepata?
Duncan sasa ungekuwa hospitali. Nimechoma hiyo uso wako na maji moto. Hiyo ndio decision ya haraka.
Inaonyesha. Kwenye chako inaonyesha. Si ndio?
Ukae na hapa katikati.
Hivi vile iko. Mimi sioni kama kuna